Depths of his own soul, a whisper from the shadow, that secret realm where all that is unloved, unknown, and unintegrated within him resides. And it is precisely when love emerges that fear begins. The truth is this: when a man truly falls in love, he does not merely love you, he encounters himself. He begins to see you through the lens of an inner image carried silently within him his entire life. This is his anima, the inner feminine, woven from the threads of memory, longing, mother complex, fantasy, and pain. She is not you, but through you he sees her, and thus the psychological storm begins. His sudden withdrawals, the silent treatments, the contradictions in his behavior, these are not signs of detachment, but rather the soul's quiet trial. A whispered question: can you hold steady when I reveal the parts of me I cannot yet accept? This is not a battle between two lovers. It is a collision of two unconscious worlds seeking resonance and redemption through the alchemy of intimacy. And here lies the miracle: if you remain present, grounded, and rooted in your own wholeness, you may not only preserve this love, but become the vessel through which a soul remembers itself. But how can we discern whether this is genuine shadow work or mere emotional manipulation? Let me guide you into the depths of Jungian psychology, where the strangest behaviors are often rich with symbolic meaning. In the next chapter, we will unveil the true purpose behind the emotional tests that men unconsciously create in love, and how you can walk through them without losing yourself. When a man begins to love, it is not merely the beginning of a relationship. It is the awakening of an inner world he may never have fully known. Love in its Jungian depth is not just a connection between two individuals. It is an ignition of the unconscious realms where archetypes stir and the unfinished parts of the soul begin to rise. In that trembling moment when his heart opens, he does not quite see you as you are. He sees a symbol, a mirror of his anima, the idealized inner woman he has carried since childhood. She is stitched together from memories of his mother, early romances, media mythology, and unmet longings. The anima is not you. But if your presence awakens her image, you become the mirror he cannot look away from, and also the mirror he fears most. Imagine this: he sees you, not just through his eyes, but through a psychic map formed in boyhood. You smile, he sees light. You pause, he feels the rejection of a forgotten childhood. Every gesture becomes a sign, a cipher, triggering buried associations and memories, some too old or too deep for even him to understand. And then something strange happens. He begins to test you. Not through direct questions, but through what seem like random situations, a sudden withdrawal, an irrational coldness, a silence that feels louder than words. But behind it all, his psyche is asking, is she who I imagined? Can she reach the part of me I've never let anyone see? These are not games. They are rituals of transformation, initiatory moments in which the man's unconscious attempts to determine, is this real love or just a projection of a long-lost dream? And if you respond with defensiveness, anger, or accusation, his fear is confirmed: I am not safe. I will be hurt again. But if you respond with presence, quiet eyes, and a steady heart, you do not just reach him. You touch the part of him no one has ever dared to see. You might ask, why must I bear these tests? Why must I be the stronger one when he is lost within his own feelings? The answer lies deeper than love itself. It lies in maturity. When you realize these tests are not about you, but about his trembling shadow seeking shelter, you become free. And in loving him consciously, you too begin your own sacred journey to meet your animus, the inner masculine you've projected onto others, the ideal you chase, the mirror you hold up to men. This is not a path for the faint-hearted. It is a pilgrimage for souls who do not love to be satisfied, but to be awakened. Real love does not lead us into easy harmony, but into sacred friction, where two psyches collide and reveal their wounds, their gods, their ghosts. So, when a man begins to love you and suddenly acts like a lost boy, don't rush to label him. Ask yourself, am I being invited to observe or to react? Can I stay present, not just to see him, but to witness where in me this reaction comes from ego, or the awakened feminine within? If you've ever experienced these invisible tests in love, share your story below. This is not a place of judgment, but of discovery. Let us explore together, how do we love not just with the heart, but with the soul? Comment below and connect with others, women and men who are walking the same path of awakening. And if this video stirred something deep within, you stay with us for the next part, where we'll explore the shadow, the dark, often hidden landscape of a man's love. Not just a place of wounds, but the very threshold to truth, where love becomes not a fleeting feeling, but the raw material for transformation. See you in the next chapter, where what was hidden will be seen in the light of awareness. When a man truly begins to feel love, his first reaction is not joy, but unease. To love in the psyche of a man is not to walk into a garden, it is to enter a labyrinth. And in that labyrinth, shadows begin to emerge, not from you, but from within him. This is the shadow, the exiled, repressed, unaccepted emotions rooted in long-forgotten pain. Jung once wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." When a man starts to feel intimacy with you, he is not merely opening his heart, his unconscious is opening old wounds. Wounds he has buried beneath strength, logic, or humor. Love makes him vulnerable. And in that vulnerability, he begins to test. He will not call them tests. He may not even be aware he's doing it, but you'll feel it in the sudden coldness, the irrational irritation. For example, you send him a sweet, caring message one evening. He reads it and says nothing. Not because he has lost interest, but because his shadow whispers, "Does she really care? Or will she abandon me like before?" And to escape that fear, he withdraws like a silent child, pulling his hand away, fearing rejection, even before it comes. In many cases, these negative reactions, doubt, distance, silent anger, are not manipulations. They are messages from the shadow. The shadow is not a villain. It is a wounded child wearing the armor of adulthood, trembling beneath the surface. And if the woman cannot see this, she may react in defense, becoming cold, angry, or retreating herself. And once again, two souls miss each other in the dark. Remember, we all carry shadows, but men are often taught to ignore them. Man up. Don't be weak. Control your emotions. And when love knocks, those unexpressed emotions overflow, not to hurt you, but to find a place to be acknowledged. So when a man unconsciously places you into a test, it is because you've touched a place in him that hasn't been loved before. He doesn't need you to fix it. He needs you to recognize it. Let's take a real-life example. You plan a beautiful picnic together. He's excited, but as the hour nears, he cancels, saying he's too busy, and goes quiet. You feel disappointment, maybe even hurt, but if you're present enough, you might see, this isn't about the picnic. It's a test, not of you, but of himself. He's wondering, when I'm not perfect, when I can't be the ideal man, will she still be here? This is the moment where you can ask yourself and comment below, how have I reacted when my partner tested me with silence or distance? Did I see the scared child beneath his armor? Share your story. Because in these reflections, healing begins not only for the one you love, but for yourself. When you recognize the shadow, it doesn't mean you must carry it. It means you can respond from love, not from ego. This doesn't mean tolerating harm. It means having the clarity to see what is the wound speaking and what is the soul truly seeking to be seen. And remember, when a man sees that you're not afraid of his darkness, when you respond with presence rather than panic, he begins to trust. Not because you're perfect, but because you become a kind of sacred space, a temple where his shadow is allowed to exist without being condemned. In Jungian psychology, this is the moment of transformation, where love is no longer about attraction, but about spiritual healing. And that opens the door to a profound next step. How does a man test your boundaries, not to break them, but to find out if you are strong enough to be a safe place? In the next part, we'll explore the unconscious ways men press your limits, not to challenge you, but to see, can you hold your center without losing yourself? I'll see you there, where the question is no longer, does he love me, but can this love elevate us both into a deeper awakening? When a man falls in love, something paradoxical often happens. He doesn't only come closer, sometimes he suddenly pulls away. He doesn't just open his heart, he retreats into silence. For many women, this moment is confusing and painful. Why is he withdrawing? Did I do something wrong? But through the Jungian lens, his withdrawal is not necessarily the end. It is a psychic mechanism, a deep unconscious search for emotional safety. When emotions begin to feel real, a man's unconscious poses a silent question. Can I be myself in this relationship without losing my freedom, my identity, or my safety? And the way he searches for that answer isn't through words, but through behavior. One of the most common is the sudden retreat. Picture this: after weeks of closeness and intimacy, he unexpectedly stops texting, doesn't call, cancels plans at the last minute with vague explanations like work. You're left feeling hurt, confused, and maybe you respond by texting more, confronting him, or even starting small conflicts just to get a reaction. But from a Jungian view, this isn't a game. It's not manipulation. It's an unconscious test. A way to discover, if I step back and disappear, will she lose herself, or will she stay grounded in herself, in peace and love? He's not hoping you'll ignore him, nor does he want you to panic. What he's truly observing is not you, but himself through you. And when you respond with presence, I see you need space. I'm here when you're ready to talk. I'm okay. That becomes a powerful signal to his soul. It tells him, I don't need control to love. I can stand in love and remain whole. This is what the masculine deeply craves. A feminine space that is soft yet stable. A sacred container where he can be himself without fear of being consumed. In symbolic language, you are the vessel, the sacred chalice that holds his chaotic emotions, not by force, but by presence. And if you've ever experienced this kind of dynamic, drop your story in the comments. How did you react when your man withdrew? Was your silence punishing or grounded? Let's reflect together, because in each story, we find mirrors that awaken healing in others. The truth is, we all need space to process our emotions. But men raised in a culture that punishes emotional vulnerability don't always know how to express. So when love stirs the deeper layers of the psyche, they often retreat. Not to reject you, but to find inner balance again. When a woman understands this, she doesn't spiral into lack. She transforms his absence into a lesson in sovereignty and self-presence. Love is not just closeness. Sometimes it's the ability to stay connected through distance. And when a man feels that even in his absence your connection holds, that's when he returns. Not because you pulled him, but because he chooses to walk into the space you've held with grace. Which leads us into an even deeper layer of the masculine test in love. When a man tests your boundaries not to break them, but to discover the structure of your soul. He pushes gently against your emotional limits, not to control you, but to see, will you abandon yourself for me, or can you love me and stay rooted in you? In the next chapter, we'll dive into this profound question. When a man tests your limits, is it manipulation or a deep yearning for inner security? Let's explore, because in the boundaries you hold lies the sacred message, I can love you without losing me. And that is the beginning of real love. There comes a moment in love where a man is no longer retreating, but not yet ready to fully move forward. He becomes inconsistent, emotionally unpredictable, sometimes even distant. Not because he isn't serious, but because love, with its immense power to transform, is beginning to stir his shadow to the surface. Carl Jung wrote, where love reigns, there is no will to power, and where power predominates, their love is lacking. When a man truly loves, he must let go of his armor of control and step into a space where he is no longer in command, a space where his wounds, his helplessness, and his imperfections are laid bare. And this is when he begins to issue unspoken tests, not to control the woman, but to sense, can she remain grounded while I storm through emotional chaos? Have you ever experienced this? One day he's warm, affectionate, the next cold and withdrawn? You ask what's wrong, he replies nothing. But something in you knows something has shifted. This is not a game. It is the inner conflict of a man terrified of losing himself in love's depth. In Jungian psychology, this is called inner division. Part of him longs for closeness, while another part pulls back, fearing he will be consumed, lose his identity. His contradictions, his mood swings, his sudden criticisms are not about you. They are reflections of the immature parts of himself still struggling to grow. A real-life example, one woman shared in our community that her husband would always become irritable before important events, birthdays, anniversaries. He would start fights over nothing, only to later express remorse. But when she stopped reacting with anger and instead gently asked, "Is something making you feel pressured today?" he finally admitted he was afraid of disappointing her. The sabotage was his fear speaking. This is where you, as someone who loves deeply, become a mirror, not to judge but to reflect truth with kindness, to say, I see you even when you're unraveling, and I'm not running. That is the most powerful message a man entering deep love can receive. Remember, men are not taught to deal with emotions the way women are. Many were raised to see vulnerability as weakness. So when love awakens deeper layers, they enter territory with no map. In those moments of confusion, you are not called to fix him, you are called to anchor into yourself. And you're not alone. Drop a comment below this video. How did I respond when the man I loved became emotionally unpredictable? Did I lose myself or remain steady? This community is not here to judge, but to reflect so that every story becomes a mirror for someone else's healing. Emotional instability in love is not a sign that something is wrong. On the contrary, it often signals that transformation is beginning. When a man senses that you are not pulled into a storm, that you don't try to fix, save, or fight, but simply stay present, he begins to see you not as a threat, but as a safe space, a home. Love, as Jung described it, is not merely a pleasant feeling. It is the process of individuation where two souls are sculpted through each other, chiseled by the very friction they fear. And sometimes the chaos is the doorway to true harmony. In the next part, we'll explore one of the most subtle yet profound tests a man offers when he loves. When he begins to reveal his wounds, his softness, the hidden parts of himself, not to be fixed, but simply to see, will you stay? Don't miss it, because this is the threshold where love stops being fragile romance and becomes a sacred ritual of transformation, where you love not only the man, but the brokenness he dares to show you. I'll see you there, where love becomes the guiding light for the parts we've both never dared to face. When a man begins to open his heart not with gifts, grand gestures, or poetic words, but by revealing the parts of himself that are not perfect, something sacred begins to unfold. This is not simply a moment of sharing. This is a ritual of the soul. In Jungian terms, this is the stage where a man confronts his personal shadow, the parts buried, deep rejected, perhaps shameful. The wounds he's never dared to expose, the emotions he's been taught to suppress. And when he brings these forward, offering them into your hands, it is not because he wants you to fix him. It is to silently ask, if I show you this part of me, will you stay? A woman once shared, he had always prided himself on being strong. But one night as we walked in silence, he told me about his father beating him as a child. Then he laughed it off. It's not a big deal. But I could see in his eyes, this was the moment. He was testing if I could hear with my heart. She didn't say you should get therapy. She didn't pretend it was all okay. She simply said, I'm here if you ever want to talk more. And in that stillness, he cried, not from pain, but from the relief of finally being seen without having to perform strength. This is the ultimate test in a man's journey into love. Can love be wide enough, deep enough, to hold even the parts of him he fears the most? If you've ever been in such a moment where someone suddenly shared a deep wound, a hidden fear, or a moment of helplessness, share your story in the comments. How did you respond? Did you stay, or did fear rise in you too? Every comment is a small flame that helps others feel less alone in the sacred space of vulnerability. What's strange is most men don't even know they're testing you. These moments aren't orchestrated by the mind. They rise from the unconscious, from a place that fears abandonment, judgment, and not being enough. But when you understand that these seemingly odd moments, when he blurts out something contradictory or confesses something shameful, are actually acts of soul courage, you stop reacting as a victim. You become the loving witness. And your presence, not judging, not fixing, becomes the quiet whisper, I see you, all of you. From that moment, the relationship transforms. It is no longer a contract of needs, but a mirror for alchemy. Imagine a world where when a man shares his story, the woman doesn't judge, but listens in presence. We would birth a generation of men not afraid of their softness and of relationships that heal rather than repeat trauma. Drop a comment below. If a man shared what he has long hidden, I would complete the sentence. You never know, your words may be the medicine someone needs to finally speak their truth. Love does not begin when everything is smooth. It begins when someone dares to show you the rough edges and you don't run. Jung once wrote, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. In love, light is not sweet words. It is the ability to hold space for someone's darkness without needing to fully understand it. In the final chapter, we'll enter the most essential conclusion: why emotional tests are not games, but the sacred language of a soul seeking true love, and how you as a conscious woman can stay rooted, loving, and present without losing your boundaries. Stay with us because the final chapter won't just help you understand men, it will help you understand yourself in love. For love isn't just about being loved, it's about awakening layer by layer, crack by crack, moment by courageous moment in which someone shows their imperfection and you remain. I'll see you in the final chapter. Dear soul, if you've made it this far, it means you're not just curious about the surface level signs of love. You're seeking something deeper, something truer, perhaps something sacred. In a world where relationships are often reduced to who loves who, more you are stepping into another dimension, a space where love becomes a journey of two souls healing through each other. Carl Jung once said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." And real love, true love, is not the place where we show up perfect, but the place where we are allowed to be imperfect and still seen through eyes that do not judge. That's not weakness, that is soul-level courage. Throughout this video you've seen, when a man falls in love, he doesn't just see you with his eyes, he sees you with the entire history of his soul. Every challenge, withdrawal, contradiction is not manipulation, but the unconscious language of a soul, silently asking, "Can this love hold all of me?" And you, dear woman, you don't need to become someone else to answer that call. Your grounded presence, your compassion, your awakened awareness, and your healthy boundaries. These are the guiding lights, not only for him, but for yourself. Because a true relationship is not about melting into each other to survive. It is about illuminating each other to evolve. I believe this with all my being. If we learn to see beyond behavior into the psychological symbols underneath it, love would no longer be a game. It would become a ritual of awakening, a sacred space where we can love and still be free, still be whole. So before you leave this video, I invite you, pause for a moment, breathe, and share one reflection in the comments below. Which part of this video made you feel most seen, or simply, what personal lesson have you learned from a similar experience? Because here in this space, your story matters, and your words might just be what someone else needs to hear today. And if this inner journey has stirred something within you, and you'd like to continue exploring the depth of soul, archetype, shadow work, and Jungian love, subscribe to the channel. No bells, no noise, just the quiet knowing that this space will always be here for depth, truth, and transformation. You may close this video, but please don't close yourself. Take one thing with you, a thought, an image, a feeling, something to sit with when the lights go out and all you have left is your own inner world. As Jung said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And true love, real soul-awakening love, is the beginning of that journey. See you in the next video. With gratitude and light, the storyteller from the shadows.